I've always had a feeling that this was a freebie. If there are numerous lives, the closest I can get to reincarnation is this. I saw, oh God, way back in early 80s, 83 or 84 when I was in Amsterdam, I saw this exhibit. I can't remember the guy's name. It was a photography exhibit. And what he did was he did a lot of superimposing picture on picture on picture on picture. And as I was touring the exhibit, the thought that came to mind was, that's what it's like. We're living all these different lives simultaneously.
Absolutely.
And maybe that's why we sometimes think they're past or future lives, but they're actually happening at the same time, right now. And we can sometimes click into them.
Absolutely.
Amsterdam for me was huge because there was a number of times, there's one place where they have, it's kind of painted like somebody escaping over the wall of a penitentiary. The first time I walked past it, I just stopped and had this huge vision of me walking past this same mural in a long trench coat, top hat, looked like it was around anywhere from the 20s to 40s. And I was like, whoa, how could I have a memory of this? And it wasn't deja vu. Deja vu is very different. How can I have a memory of this if I didn't already experience this at some point?
Well, we all have parallel lives. I do recall Sun Bear had told a story that before he came to this earth, he was offered and he had the choice of 4 or 5 different lifetimes he could have existed. The one that was shown to him as Sun Bear was the one that caught his attention the most, so he decided to pick that one. But I've always known since I was about 4 that we all have parallel lives, that all time exists at the same time. And I used to tell that to my sisters who, still trying to figure me out all these years later. But I would tell them, somewhere we're old ladies, sitting around talking to each other, and somewhere else we're also, doing what we did yesterday. And it was hard for them to understand. And what was interesting was, fast forward that 40 years when that book Conversations with God came out. My older sister was in a book club in Florida, and as they were reading this book, she said, wait a minute. She says, my sister Meria knew all of this when she was 5 years old. How is that possible? So, you go from being considered a crazy person to a genius, and sometimes you go back to it too.
Yeah, it's not a linear line.
No, absolutely not. And when I try to tell people now, and it's a hard concept for people to get, is when I tell them, you have to understand we are actually right now, even having this discussion, George, we're actually visiting our past. So, I don't overreact to anything because this has already happened. When I talk to people about the future, I tell them the future's assured. I've already seen it. I travel there often. And it's a lot different and yet a lot the same. I think that for the majority of people, you did ask me a question that I didn't answer. You asked earlier, why is the media the way they are? Why don't they talk about these things? First of all, most of them are brain dead. Second of all, I don't even know that any of them even have a soul on the inside of their bodies, because I've always seen since I was a young girl a lot of bodies walking around that have no soul inside. They're just empty bodies, pretty much being puppeted or maybe available for different life forms from different planets that want to jump in and out of, this particular dimension every so often. And they also are afraid of their paycheck, and they're also part of the problem. It's one big, I like to call it the corporation of fear, and they're just the mouthpieces for it.
Yeah, I see fear as being the parent to guilt, blame, and shame.
All useless emotions.
Yeah.
Forgetting that we're in an alternative reality all the time. It's like forever experiencing an alternative reality.
When checking on, again, doing my prep and seeing that you're 101 years old,
Well, I always tell people I feel like I've lived my life here in dog years.
Yeah.
I've squeezed 7 years of living into every year I've been here, and I've always been a student of life. I'm one of those people that always wants to learn. I'm always reading. I'm always studying. My children tell me that no one uses their brain more than I do. But, sitting around and, watching something mindless on TV is not my idea of being alive. I want to know everything about everything, and I want to know it now.
Yeah. I can really relate to what you were speaking on about that emptiness. I did a Chenrezig meditation with His Holiness the Dalai Lama back in early 90, and it was an awesome experience. I put it second under the near death. When I came out of there, I'm in downtown Seattle, and of course, you can't have a Chenrezig meditation, which is a heart chakra meditation with His Holiness, without being opened in some way, shape, or form. And when I came out, as people were walking by me, I was seeing this blackness, and maybe it was the soullessness that I was seeing. I took it as people's pain, because it was just this blackness. And tears were just, I couldn't stop it. It was just so horrifying, because every person I saw had this huge gaping hole of pain within them, and it was one of the saddest things I've ever experienced. And so I said to my friend, I said, man, you got to get me out of here. You got to take me to a tree. I have to have my back against a tree so I can ground with this tree, because this is so hurtful. I don't want to see this anymore.
Mm-hmm.
Did any of those kinds of, did you ever get to that point where you just didn't want to see what you could see anymore because it was either too painful, just too negative that you didn't want to see it anymore?
No, I never have. I just, to me, the world is the way it is. It's very matter of fact to me. I mean, I can honestly tell you when I'm out and about, whether I'm doing errands or at a restaurant with friends, there's no other living energy in the space except me and my friends. And I point that out to them. I say, can you show me any real living energy in this restaurant or in this crowd? And I've always felt that way since I was a young person. I actually felt like I was alone on this planet. I can actually get out and about and not see anybody wherever I am. I can actually eliminate the people in my mind and separate into another space and just enjoy my space and not having to deal with lower life forms. I mean, to me, there's a lot of people on this planet that I truly believe are standing upright for the very first time.
Yeah. I also understand that phasing out. Done that a few times with different ceremonies. You're doing a ceremony in a park or wherever, and there's regular people walking, and then it's like they don't even see you. It's like you're not even there.
I've made myself invisible many times, and I don't even remember how young I was when I taught myself not to smell.
Oh,
so, because there's a lot of really bad smells on this planet. The only time I will actually smell is if somebody makes the mistake of saying to me, Maria, did you smell that? And then I'm sorry they said it, because I'll take a whiff and it's like, yuck.
Why did you do that?
I'm like, don't tell me to smell anything, because I can turn that off and I'd rather leave it off.
Yeah. So this begs the question, are you a radio host having a spiritual life, or a spiritualist having a radio life?
I am an extraordinarily powerful spiritual being, doing as many things on this planet as I possibly can that entertain me, educate others, and are fun.
That's a good answer.
And I've always believed that I'm just here to find my soul group, wake them up, and get ready to get the hell out of here.
Yeah, let's go.
So that's my job.
I had it's not a fear, it's a concern. And it was always kind of at the back of my head a little bit and it's interesting that it's kind of turned out this way, almost. Not quite, because I've always had the blessing and luxury of having mentors and people to walk a spiritual life with. I've always had that since I was 12. But there was always this thing in the back of my head that I'm going to be the last one. I've been the youngest everywhere I've gone. Maybe that's what's put it in there, but I always had this feeling that I'm going to be the last one. They're all going to go and leave me behind to either, help direct other people there or to be the observer. I'm not quite sure what. I don't know if I still have that now, but it's interesting that over the years that all the old elders and a lot of the people I ran with have either passed on or have gone crazy, one or the other.
Oh, I'm not one for liking going crazy.
Yeah.
But everything has a season, including the human body. And if people stay attached to their human body, they stay attached to their material things, there's going to be no way out for them. It's going to be their downfall. So until people really understand that none of this is real and none of it matters, they won't enjoy what time they have left. People also have postulated, and I agree, we come to Earth to experience death. It's the only place we can. So it's the ultimate thrill ride, is to come to planet Earth, and everything that happens up until the moment you die really could be meaningless because you came here for the ride.
That's an interesting concept. I hadn't heard that it's for the death experience. I've heard lots of other things, but I haven't heard for the death experience. I had to think about that one because I hadn't heard that before. It's
a good one. It's another one of those mind-blowing thoughts that takes a while to fully absorb.
Yeah, that's an interesting one because from my having a near-death experience, I can understand that being the roller coaster ride is the death experience itself.
Right, and most people that have an NDB, they don't want to come back.
Yeah, I don't want to.
They lose their fear of death completely.
Yeah.
But unlike you, I came crash landing down on this foreign planet at 4 years old. Oh my God, who are these people? This can't be my family. How do I get out of here? And I had no mentors.
Yeah.
All I had was a shitload of enemies.
Yeah, no, I was lucky.
Every now and then I'd meet a teacher or a writer that made some sense to me. But I was in my late 30s when I met Sun Bear, and he was a blessing. But for me, he was more a trigger of my cellular memories and brought back many of my past lives as a Native American. And then what that did was put me in a quandary because I had a hard time with my own patriotism or love for my country because on one hand, the Indian inside of me hated this country and the white man. On the other end of it, I was a white man in this country, and I'm like, oh my God. I was very conflicted for at least a year over that.
Yeah, it's a rather large paradoxical experience.
Right. And then, of course, when I started teaching the wheel, I had a lot of problems from AIM, the American Indian Movement.
Oh,
They wanted me dead because they were like, who's this white woman teaching this?
Yeah.
So I've always been odd man out. Even when I tried to make peace with them, they just hung up on me.
Yeah, I was going to ask you about
I've had problems with everybody, from the Native Americans to the CIA to you name it. But I'm still here.
Yeah.
So, I know the kind of spiritual protection I have. I count on that. I count on it every day because people always say, aren't you afraid doing what you're doing? And I'm like, afraid of what? What are they going to do? Kill me so I can go home?
It's like, bring it on. Sorry, you can't hurt me.
Let's go.
Yeah.
But I figure while I'm here, my guides have told me a long time ago, you didn't come in here to make friends. You came in here to make waves. So that's what I do. I make waves.
Yeah, because it triggers people.
Right, and I don't really care how I get people to think. If I insult them, if I shock them, if I can make them laugh and still get them to think, either way, people have got to get it because this is the last turn for reincarnation as we know it.
What do you mean by that?
Well, we're living in a time where, people talk about a lot of different things, but one thing they don't talk about is if you wanted to look at 2012 and all these indicators towards it, what I've always known is there comes a point where there's no more time. And as you know, time is speeding up.
Yep.
There's no more time for people to study metaphysics for 20 years, to sit and chant. There's no place like Om for 20 years on a mountaintop. This is it. There is actually now a war on for human souls. Will the human race survive at all? And people are either going to do the right thing in this lifetime, or what they will reincarnate in will not be the happy, pleasant little earth that their souls have been used to. The other side of it is a lot of souls that are alive today, when they drop their bodies, they will become recycled energy. They will go back to the source because they failed and failed terribly. I would say the majority of our politicians worldwide fit that class.
God, yes.
So they will just become recycled energy and legitimately lose their soul. I think religion has bent people out of shape into believing that the soul is eternal. Well, not all souls. Okay. So, for me, I have to tell you, I do have a lot of empathy for regular people, but for the majority, I'll be glad to see them go.
Yeah, see, there's another. I have the same thing.